Mr. Ilia Iașin, thank you so much for joining our program. You have presented today, together with Mr. Alfred Koch, here at the Council of Europe, the report Putin War, based on materials put together by Mr. Boris Nemțov. My first question to you would be, what was your motivation to get involved in finishing this report?
You're absolutely right. This report was started by Boris Nemțov, and he didn't finish it because he was murdered. And for us, it was very important to respect our dead friends, to finish this work. And the second motivation was just because we are Russian patriots, and we see how much damage this war to Russian country, to Russian society. And we try to tell to Russian society the truth about this war. We see that people don't have an information about this war. We see that Russian authority lies day by day, month by month, about Russian troopers in Ukraine. And we would like to tell to Russian people the truth about what's really happening in Russian-Ukrainian relations today.
What if they are not asking you? The majority of population, you just said me before, they have only access to the public television, to the public information. They are subject of this propaganda. How can you get those people those information?
Actually, that's true. It's very aggressive Putin's propaganda in Russia against opposition, against Ukraine, against Europe, against Western countries. And it's very difficult to give the truth to the people. We have no alternative. We go to the people, we go to factories, we go to streets, and we just trying to shake million hands. We try to tell to people face to face, and that's why we printed many copies of this report. And we try to just work in public. We try to just work just on the streets.
You told me also before the interview that actually it's difficult to be an opposition politician in Russia these days. You told me that you are expecting to be fired from your job at the university, and this is not the worst thing. What would be the worst thing, actually?
You mentioned my friend Boris Nemțov. You know, he was killed just near the Kremlin. He was one of the biggest leaders of Russian opposition. He was a famous person just in the world, and he was killed just near the Kremlin. And we understand that the people who ordered this murder, they are just on freedom. And we understand that if you criticize Putin in public, you are in danger. It's risky. And of course, it's not the biggest problem if you are fired from your job. We see how many people are in jail in Russia, how many political prisoners. We see how many people just leave the country, and we see that what's happened with Boris Nemțov.
According to your report, who is fighting in Ukraine?
There are a lot of Russian troopers. It's Russian weapon, and it's Russian fighters, and we understand that it's responsible of Mr. Putin, because Putin sent these troopers, these fighters to Ukraine. And
only Russians?
Not only Russians, of course, but there are a lot of fighters from all over the country who fight for money. But first of all, we talk about Russian troopers. All this year, Putin says there are no Russian troopers in Ukraine. That's lie. And
you have evidence for this?
Of course, we have a lot of proofs in our report that it is a lie. And we would like to tell to Russian people, your president, he's a liar. And we would like to tell to Russian people about result of this war for Russia, for our country. We talk about political isolation, we talk about the big economic damage, and we trying to explain to Russian society that this war make a damage to Russian national interests.
What's Mr. Putin's objective in Ukraine, according also to your research and to this report?
First of all, he would like to keep Crimea in Russia as a Russian territory, first of all. But the second goal, he would like to create the Donbas case as a mechanism of pressure on Ukraine, on European society, on United States, on Western countries. Putin would like to explain to Western politicians that he can start a big war on Donbas again. And if you will not have a dialogue with Putin, he will do it. That's a mechanism of pressure, and Putin would like to keep this mechanism of pressure for himself.
It's only about Ukraine, or actually it's a strategy which includes also Ukraine, Moldova with Transnistria, Georgia with Ossetia, and so on?
I don't know, because
according to your research.
No. Our research is just about Ukraine. But we understand if Putin will not be stopped in Ukraine, he can go to Baltic countries, he can go to Moldova, he can go to Kazakhstan, and that's why we believe Putin should be stopped.
My last question, Mr. Iașin. You finished the report, you presented here at the Council of Europe, and probably you will do it also in other institutions, in capitals, European capitals, and so on. What's next? What do you expect from the West to do now?
3 points. The first of all, Western countries should save the Ukraine from Putin, because if Ukraine will fail, it will be the great victory for Putin as a dictator. It will be the great damage for European Union. It will be the great damage for Russian democratic movement, and that's why all of us together, we should save the Ukraine from Putin. The second point, it's about sanctions. We believe in personal sanctions. We see how it works. We see that it's a very effective mechanism of pressure on Mr. Putin. But I talk not about economic sanctions, but about the personal sanctions, against Putin oligarchs, against Putin generals, against Putin bureaucracy. Sanction work. And the third point is to help to Russian political prisoners, because these people have no chance to justice. And that's why I ask European politicians, European Union, pay more attention to political prisoners in Russia.
Mr. Iașin, thank you so much for this interview.